Hi, Poppy.
Yes.
Well, first of all, first question. With regards to the election, what made you decide to stand for the Greens?
Oh, it's because I believe in the Green programme. I think that we are the only party that has the vision for the long-term, happier, healthier planet. And it seems to me a no-brainer that that is what we should be putting our energy into, and that's what we should be aiming to achieve.
Okay. And with regard to sort of Barnet and Camden specifically, are there any issues that you think are important here? That
Huge issues. I mean, we can go from the actual campaigns that are happening at the moment. So we start with Pinkham Way. I mean, we're putting out a leaflet right across Coppitt's Wall, which is the one nearest Pinkham Way, on account of the fact that the other parties have postponed the decisions on it until after May, because they don't want to talk about it, because they know that there is a feeling of an instinct in the people that this is too big and it's not necessary and it's in the wrong place, chopping down an area of importance to wildlife and to the local people. So that's one, as it were, specific issue. There's another that speaks more broadly, and that's the library campaign. And that talks about the cuts. We are the only political party that, of the four bigger parties, that doesn't hold with the cuts. We do not believe in this austerity, and that distinguishes us from the others. We believe that if we cut tax loopholes and cut Trident, we wouldn't need these cuts. I think that driving the country into recession is balmy economics. It doesn't work, and it's shown not to work. British debt is higher now than it was before, so it's entirely counterproductive. And that brings us on to the bigger issues of the whole Easy Council privatization program, which again goes entirely against the views and opinions and policies that we have. The other parties have all signed up to this kind of rampant, capitalistic, market-oriented social management. We don't. We believe in community, we believe in collective action, and we believe in social democracy. And so those are the kinds of issues that affect Barnet, but also reflect on the wider ideology that we bring. Ideas we have, a vision for stronger communities, all the way from changing planning arrangements to make it harder for chain stores to get places on the high street, all the way to creating local currencies. That means we can only spend our money locally, and we build the local economy through trading goods and services among ourselves. So those are the two angles I come at it.
In London, I mean, what's your view on that, and what do you know the Green Party position on it?
Okay, I'm very protective of the British way of handling what the Americans call these social issues. So they all describe themselves as social conservatives or social liberals, and I really, really appreciate the way the British system takes these matters of conscience and says, this will not become party political. So although I can give you my own personal opinion on these things, and it's generally a progressive, pluralist, feminist perspective, and in that respect I will be representing a broad breadth, that I would say, of Green Party policy. I would not wish to make it a party political issue. We are blessed in not having these issues of conscience be party political issues. So in those terms I would say, let's leave it to people's conscience.
So what's your view on those issues, or would you rather not say?
No, my own personal views, as I say, are progressive and feminist. I would say that the campaign that had people picketing and praying outside abortion clinics came on the radio recently and proudly asserted its success in closing 24 clinics. Well, I'm sorry, that strikes me as harassment and the breach of people's individual rights to manage their own bodies and their own lives.
Right. And with regard to the situation in Barnet, I mean, obviously the Greens are associated with local democracy. Do you think there are issues with local democracy in Barnet?
Yes, I do. I think there are major issues of local democracy in Barnet, and it's expressed itself very starkly in the hustings. I've been to 3 formal hustings and 1 informal hustings in Barnet, And one of those hustings was jointly with Brent and Harrow, and not a single Tory representative came to speak to the electorate at any of those hustings. On one occasion, a deputy was supposed to come and didn't show up. On the one jointly with Brent and Harrow, neither candidate from the Tory party showed up. This kind of detached, aloof, unaccountable arrogance should, it seems to me, rule somebody out from holding public office.
And with regard to the various other elections and things going on the same day, I mean, obviously, if I was to ask you who your first preference would be for the mayoral election, you'd say Jenny Jones.
I would, yes.
Do you have a second preference?
Yes, we are saying vote Ken second.
Right, okay.
And there are some simple reasons for that, that include, first of all, he gets the environment. He gets global warming in a way that Boris doesn't, and also because we know from previous experience that we can work with Ken. That's not the case with Boris.
Right, and what about Brian Piddick? What's your view on him? Or don't you have one?
I mean, I've sat with Brian on hustings, and he's always very, very, very personable with me.
And there's also the sort of top-up list, which probably offers the best opportunity for the Green
It's
Party.
It's a vital element of this election.
And so, what would be your advice to anyone who is looking at the top-up list? Would you say?
Well, my advice is really simple. You've got 4 votes. You can vote 1 for each party if you want. Vote Green on the top-up list. That's an orange-coloured ballot. That is my single request in terms of the voting.
And with regard to the GLA race in Barnet, do you have a preference as to who would win that? Should you not, or don't you want to say?
I don't want to say. I mean, it's a very hard-fought seat, and I do want my deposit back.
And what do you think of the current incumbent?
The current incumbent has policies that I find very troubling, and they centre on traffic. So, for example, he, I believe, is a cabinet member for the environment in Barnet. Now, we have some fantastically important aspects of the environment that I would like our incumbent to talk about, and yet his motto, as far as I understand it, is roads, 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 and he believes wholly in keeping traffic smoothly flowing. That's his priority. That's not my priorities, and I abhor it. It's caused more accidents in Barnet roads than in any other borough's roads. I think that's terrible.
One thing that strikes me, and I don't feel any candidate has really raised this with regard to the traffic policies. My view is that the parking policies are closing down high streets and moving people to the large centres like Brent Cross.
I'm sure they are.
Which ultimately puts more traffic on the road.
I'm sure it does.
And to my mind, it actually causes traffic congestion, which is something that parking policies are meant to alleviate. And, I mean, do you have a view on?
Yes, absolutely. I have a view, and I got booed for this at the hustings before, and that is put parking charges on the supermarket car parks and Brent Cross car park. Absolutely. The fact that they are free and this is not is madness.
Yeah. And I mean, do you have a view on the Brent Cross expansion that was planned?
It seems counterintuitive. It seems old thinking. This is last century thinking. This is not 21st century sustainable, resilient community building, which is what we're supposed to be doing. It's incomprehensible to me.
And I guess, you know, a lot of people in Barnet, this will probably be the first time they'll have seen you. I mean, hopefully, what would you like them to think you would champion should you get in?
Well, the thing about being an assembly member is it gives the person in the assembly certain influence. There's very little power that assembly members hold. Their duty is to scrutinise the mayor, that's ask questions, and pass or not pass the mayor's budget. But their influence is far wider. So, in asking questions, action can be prompted. So the very first question time, Darren Johnson, who is a Green Assembly member, asked about registering same-sex couples, and that was implemented, and that opened the door to the civil partnerships that we now enjoy. You can commission reports, which we did, into the loss of water through leakage, and that information prompted Thames Water to fix the leaks. You can commission investigations, so Jenny commissioned one into cycling, which gave the facts and details that gave the mayor reasons to up the cycling budget by 400%. Similarly, we can do deals with the mayor in order to pass his budget, and so we got the greening of London buildings, more insulation and that kind of thing, from a budget of 300,000 to £8 million. And those are the kinds of issues that you can expect Greens to continue championing, all the way from social justice issues to environmental justice issues to economic justice issues. Two of my big concerns are jobs, jobs, jobs. Because you can't have environmental sustainability without economic sustainability, and we cannot have a lost generation of people with no prospects. So jobs and school places. Now again, we don't have direct power over that. Hope to wield some useful influence.
Now, our existing incumbent in his leaflets has been boasting about the £400,000 he got for regeneration in Barnet of the High Street. If Boris Johnson or Ken Livingstone was to give you £400,000 to spend on something in Barnet, what would you use it on?
So you're thinking about the high streets, what I would do for the high streets?
Anything. If you had £400,000 to spend to make Barnet better, what would you use it on?
£400,000 in Barnet? What a wonderful question. I would use it, realistically, because it's not that much money, Roger, on establishing local currencies and local fora for self-government, i.e. give power back to us.
And do you think Barnet Council, I mean Barnet is the largest borough in London in terms of people, do you think it's too big? Would you like to see it broken down into smaller areas?
Don't have a view on that. I can see that there might be some justice in it, but I'm not sure what the other issues are, and I would like to, I await to be lobbied on that.
Fair enough. And do you think Barnet, I mean obviously the Greens have interest in things like recycling policies, are Barnet Council on the right track there?
Well, we don't know. Barnet pioneered curbside separate recycling, which I give them a lot of credit for. I'm very nervous about this new wheelie bin proposal, which although it adopts the separate food collection that we called for, we've been lobbying, but we as the Barnet Green Party has been lobbying them a lot on this. Although they're introducing that, I'm suspicious about this, what looks like a move towards commingling of the recycling in this single wheelie bin approach. So I'm very, very anxious to remind Barnet that they've got a reputation. Not one of the, one of the few areas where they've got a good reputation. Don't throw it away.
Okay. And there's quite a few campaigns on the go in Barnet at the moment. There's Friern Library, there's the parking campaign, there's the Pinkham Way,
Yep.
there's the Brent Cross regeneration. Which campaign, if you had to choose one, and it doesn't have to be one of those ones, which campaign would you stand on the street corner campaigning for next Saturday if you weren't out campaigning for the Green Party?
No, I will be. On Saturday I will be down with the at Friern Barnet Library, at the Democracy Rally, which is against the cuts. I mean, and that, I'm happy to stand on that. I'm hoping to bring a stall if it's not raining, and some flags and some people, and I'll be joining the Democracy Rally, and I'm afraid I've had to turn down the big ride event for that.
Okay. And I think one of the problems with elections is people don't really get to see a full picture of what their candidates are. They might know someone stands for the Greens or the Lib Dems or the Conservatives or Labour. What does Poppy do when she's not out campaigning for the Greens? How do you relax?
Okay, Roger, this is you giving me an opportunity to plug my band. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say that if you vote Green on the Orange ballot in enough numbers, and we were only 8,000 votes across London Shore to getting a third place last time, we will vote Noel Lynch onto the Assembly. And Noel is a local man. He's a small businessman in East Finchley. He's been there forever. He's a really good man. He held that seat when we had 3 seats, and he knows the issues, he cares, and he's accountable. And I would love to see Noel elected onto the Assembly.
And what do you think Noel would do that maybe a Conservative or a Labour or a Lib Dem wouldn't if he got that?
Well, please don't make this sound trivial, but he's one of the leading campaigners on public toilets. And he believes in making provision so that vulnerable people, pregnant women and others, feel able to go out without worrying about being caught short.
No, I mean, I've got to confess, I didn't know that was a campaign, but I mean, I didn't even know there were such things as public toilets in Barnet anymore.
There may not be. Because he understands small business, he will be very strongly supporting policies to help small businesses thrive against the odds, which I think that's how it is at the moment.
Okay. And I mean, over the course of the existence of the Green movement, which has probably been 30, 40 years in the UK, it's sort of developed quite a lot, and that the party is now a big organisation. It has MPs, it has MEPs, it has GLA members. Has it got too big? Has it got away from its campaigning roots?
Happily, I don't think so, because although we did vote to have a leader some couple of years ago, and now we do have a leader, which we didn't before, we remain a bottom-up party, a party that's based on its grassroots, that sends power upwards rather than looks upwards for power. And so I feel that so far we've resisted that too bigness.
And with regards to yourself, I mean, do you take the bus and the tube everywhere, or do you have a big Jaguar?
I've never owned a car, Roger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a bicycle and I take the tube and the bus, yes.
Okay, and do you think Barnet has good transport links? Is it easy to get across Barnet?
I think that it's dead easy to get out of Barnet. I live in Woodside Park, and I can get into town that quickly, and I think that that's actually a shame. We had to wait, 25 years to have an art centre here in Barnet. The GOMOD was there, and then we had a great big hole in the centre of our community, and I blame that partly on the ease with which one can get into town. Of course, no. And one of the things that the Greens believe and will campaign for is orbital bus routes, so that we have bus routes that link our communities orbitally rather than radially.
It's funny you talk about the Arts Depot, because I was actually there last night for a production called Our Good Country about Australia.
Right.
And the thing that struck me about the Arts Depot is it's a fantastic resource, but it seems to me that it's very underused and very under-promoted by Barnet Council. I mean, obviously, you know, you come from an arty background, a little bit like myself, you're in a band. I mean, what would you like to see done with the Arts Depot?
Well,
that isn't being done?
I campaigned for the Arts Depot before it was built, and I went to a number of public meetings. And I confess that it might be that my views are a little out of date. I was working as a peace worker in the Philippines in 2009, 2010. And my activity with the Arts Depot ended before I went. I had a vision for the Arts Depot as a heart for the community. I saw it as a community resource. I was disappointed, Roger, initially. First of all, to discover the very alienating architecture of the Arts Depot. I found it big and sterile and difficult to relate to and completely unnurturing. And in fact, speaking to a man who works in facilities there, he told me it's the worst design building he's ever worked for. Ventilation is impossible. So I was disappointed by that. I was also disappointed to discover that it was a kind of off Broadway kind of fringe of the fringe of the fringe promotion. We would get shows that were too tired to stay in the West End come to the Arts Depot. That's not the kind of vision I have for a local arts centre. I went to the folk club there until it moved to the foyer, and then I ceased going. So yes, I feel that the Arts Depot is an enormous resource, and it could be a fantastic, vibrant, beating heart for a community for Barnet to build in, but that I'm not sure it's grasped that vision. I haven't spoken to its latest director.
It's funny you should say that, because about this time last year we organised, the Trades Unions Council and myself organised a rally that culminated with a gig there which my band played at along with the Foundations and a few other bands, and it was free access and the place was absolutely packed. And to me that's what an arts centre should be, but I think that's the only time I can remember anything there like that there. And it's a shame to me that they've got a lot of space there that they could put local bands on and youngsters and drama groups.
Yeah, you would have wanted that.
You know, it is a shame, but
we should talk to the director before I say anything too critical. My criticism relates to the period of the first director, where I felt it was way off course.
Yeah. In Barnet at the moment, and to a certain extent in Camden Town, there's a lot of talk that big London developments such as Crossrail and various other things which the Mayor and the GLA have pushed through don't benefit Barnet. Do you view that as a problem, or do you think that's something that we just have to live with?
I'm not sure in what way it doesn't benefit Barnet. I mean, shouldn't we be grateful that we don't have HS2 rumbling through our borough and things like that? So I mean, I have been lobbied about the light rail idea, and given all the circumstances and the context, I'm not ruling it out. We believe in those kinds of public transport options.
So you would support the Brent Cross Railway scheme?
I don't know. What I'm saying is I would look at it. I wouldn't rule it out of hand, which I think the current council would, because it's not based on that.
Okay, well, I think that just about brings us to the end. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Vote Green on the orange ballot and get some principled, thoughtful, responsible people onto the assembly.
Poppy, thank you very much for your time.